Hi everyone, welcome to today's Bible study. I hope everyone is well. It's almost Christmas. This year has gone so quickly. It's almost unbelievable, but as always, God has been faithful and he has remained true to us in every possible way. He has given us health, he has given us life. So there's so many things to be grateful to God for. And what I like to do at this time of the year is to begin to count my blessings, not just like random generic blessings, but actually counting and writing things down and saying, Father, I thank you for this specifically. I call it my book of remembrance. My book of remembrance. So I keep adding to it, thanking God, because otherwise, as people that are driven, we always want to move forward and so on. It can be very easy to think, oh, this one didn't happen, that one didn't happen, this one didn't happen, and then forget everything that did happen. So it's a good practice, and I will encourage you to do that as well. Now, there are many instances in the Bible where people have tried to help God, several instances, and it hasn't turned out very well, but the mercy of God always prevails. In all these lessons that we're sharing, one thing we can be confident about, that we can literally rest in, is regardless of our mistakes, regardless of anything that we do, when we step out of the way or, take a foot wrong, God's mercy is always there for us to build us back up. God doesn't push us down. He doesn't condemn us. He will always build us back up. So today's Bible hero, someone guessed and they said it was Abraham and Sarah. Now that's absolutely right, because they did try to help God, and Ishmael was what came out of it. And someone said it this way: if they hadn't done that, maybe the Middle Eastern crisis may have been averted. That's one of the consequences of trying to help God. But they are actually not the people that we're looking at today. So today's Bible hero is actually Rebecca. So who's Rebecca? Rebecca was Isaac's wife. So before I give away too much, I'm just going to go into the Bible and then we'll start. So Genesis 25, 21 to 28. And this was shortly after Abraham died. So Abraham died and then he was buried. It now says Isaac pleaded with the Lord on behalf of his wife, because she was unable to have children. So according to this, they had been married for 20 years. So they had been married for 20 years and then she didn't have any children. They didn't have children. So it says Isaac pleaded with the Lord on behalf of his wife because she was unable to have children. The Lord answered Isaac's prayer. Praise God for answered prayers. God doesn't withhold. And Rebecca became pregnant with twins. But the two children struggled with each other in her womb. So she went to ask the Lord about it. I'm going to come back to that. So she went to the Lord to ask about it. Why is this happening to me? She asked. And the Lord told her, the sons in your womb will become two nations. From the very beginning, the two nations will be rivals. One nation will be stronger than the other, and your older son will serve the younger. So God basically laid it bare to Rebecca. The same way God will show you, he will give you a word. He will tell you something about your marriage. He will tell you a promise about your career or your children and so on. God doesn't hide things from us. He will not show you the whole thing from the beginning, but he has a way of showing you the end. He won't say, right, step by step, every single from the beginning, but he has a way of showing you the very end. And the end actually is also not static. It's dynamic. The vision keeps getting bigger the more we walk with God. So she basically went to God and said, what's going on? This thought, I don't even know if she thought it was twins at the time. I think she was just, having a difficult time with the pregnancy. So she went to inquire of the Lord. So let me keep reading. And now says the first one, it says it came for time for Rebecca to be delivered, and she discovered that she was indeed pregnant with twins. So the first one was very red at birth and covered with thick hair like a fur coat. So they named him Esau. Then the other twin was born with his hand grasping Esau's heel. So they named him Jacob, which means supplanter. Okay. And Isaac was 60 years old when the twins were born. As the boys grew up, Esau became a skillful hunter. He was an outdoor man. while Jacob had a quiet temperament, like an introvert, preferring to stay at home. Isaac loved Esau because he enjoyed eating the wild game Esau brought home, but Rebecca loved Jacob. So I'm going to pause there. So there are two kids, very different temperaments, very different personalities. One was obviously outdoorsy, probably an extrovert, likes to hang around people, likes to, get out, into town and all those things. The other one was an introvert. He was quiet, preferred to stay at home. If there were books at the time, this kind of person that would probably like to read and just literally, go into themselves and all of that. But the two parents loved each of the boys for two different reasons. So the Bible says Isaac loved Esau because of the food. So Esau would go out and hunt and then bring him game, right? Animals and cook, and he really loved that. So he enjoyed that. And I think much more, if we sort of dig deeper, I think it was more than the food. I think maybe he enjoyed, his extroverted nature. It's possible, they would probably sit down and gist, and he just liked that about Esau. Meanwhile, the Bible says that Rebecca loved Jacob. Now, it doesn't say anything beyond that. It doesn't say, oh, Rebecca loved Jacob because, they would sit at home together and cook together or whatever, or they love to read books together. I'm just playing now, but you understand what I mean. The Bible doesn't say that. It just literally said Rebecca loved Jacob, meaning the implication of that is it is because of what she had been told when she was pregnant with them. So she had been essentially influenced by the vision. So God said, this is what is going to happen. Jacob is going to be the one that's going to rule over Esau. As a result of that, she preferred Jacob. She began to prefer him over his brother. She was entirely influenced by the vision God had shown her. If you see what I mean. So the first thing I wanted to point out here is this, and it leads on to much more. Rebecca actually started with God, because I want us to see something. This was not someone that didn't have a covenant with God, some random heathen or whatever. This was the wife of the person that bore the right of the covenant. This was Abraham's son's wife. When she began to have that initial challenge, so the same way when things begin to move in our environment, when maybe the job goes or the business collapses or there's trouble in the marriage or something happens, we usually know to go to God. That's what Rebecca did. All right. She went to God and she cried out to God and she said, what is going on? Show me. And God was very quick to show her the end. He showed her the vision. He said, this is actually what's happening. This is where this is going to lead. So essentially, she started with God. Her first point of contact in the middle of that crisis was God. And that's usually typical for a lot of us Christians. We would go to God first, and that's very commendable. But what now happened after that was she took that word and then she literally began to act on it. There was no blueprint from God as to how it would happen, as to how God wanted it to play out. It was literally, okay, so Jacob is going to be the favored one. I need to do everything I can to make sure it happens. Okay? And as a result of that, the Bible says Rebecca loved Jacob. So she started to treat him differently than his brother. So the thing is, when she had some insight into the mind of God in that situation, she immediately switched to her own intelligence to make it happen. So it's one thing to start with God, but then the beginning is literally just that, the beginning. God shows us the end, but we are not at the end yet. We're only at the beginning. And the reason why he shows us the end is to almost lock us in, to say, this is where I'm taking you. This is what's going to happen. If you think about Abraham, God said, come out of your country, from your kindred, your kingsmen, and to a land that I will show you. And he gave him all these promises, father of all nations. And, in Hebrews, the Bible talks about how Abraham and all these people did not actually enter into the promised land. They didn't. They lived in tents all of their lives. because that was just the beginning. It was going to transcend them. So this is how God operates with us. Even when you get to the point where, oh, this vision God has given me, by the time you get to that, like, oh, I'm so relieved, before you even blink, he has moved the goalpost again. He has, begun to show you something else. And you can barely just stay and relax and enjoy where you are and say, okay, I'm just going to stay here. No, because he's already calling you into something else. He's already calling you deeper. He's already calling you higher. So God, that's how God operates with us. He will always show us the end. But sometimes we forget that what he's showing us is the end. There is still quite a process through him and in him to go from where we are to where he wants us to be. All right. And the frustration comes when we feel like that word he has given is validation to go and accomplish it. No, it's not validation for you to go out and go and accomplish it. It is validation for you to trust in him to take you there. I hope you can see the difference. There's a difference. There's an absolute difference. Think of it this way. You set a destination and you say that, okay, I'll use Uber as an example, all right? International, what's the word? Brand. So we all know Uber. I want to go somewhere and I set my destination, I'm going to Uber. So once you set your destination and you say, oh, I'm going to this place, what you literally called for is somebody to come and take you there. You don't take an app, call an Uber, and then start running around and say, okay, everyone you meet on the road, how do I get there? This is what I'm going to. That's what we try to do. So once the destination becomes clear to us, we now start trying to do things. Meanwhile, what happened is someone is coming to take you there. God is now going to work with you step by step to take us there in the shortest possible time and avoiding a lot of things usually that that we a lot of trouble that if we had just followed God in the first place could have been avoided. The Bible says about the children of Israel, the journey in the wilderness was meant to be 11 days, but they died there. So God does not, he's not going to stretch something out beyond what is necessary. He's not going to allow temptation to overcome us beyond what is, to come to us beyond what is necessary. So that's what I wanted to point out first of all. Now, Rebecca got that word and immediately it colored the way she treated her two children. She loved Jacob, not because of his personality, not because of anything, but because of that word, and she began to treat him differently. Now, we all know about all the different things that she did later on, but I'm not going to say that now. We'll come to that later on. But what I do want to do is I want us to compare this with Mary, the mother of Jesus. Almost a similar situation. So the angel came to Mary and said, highly favored above all women, this is what's going to happen. You're going to have a son and his name will be Jesus and he will save his people and all that. Basically, you're about to be pregnant with the Son of God. Now, if you read about Mary and the life of Jesus as a baby and as a child growing up, the Bible always says that Mary kept these things. So every time she heard a word from God regarding her son, or every time she observed something, the Bible says that she kept it in her heart. At no point do we have any record of Mary trying to orchestrate or trying to move things around for Jesus to become the King of the Jews. There's no record of that. In fact, when Jesus tried to stay back in the temple when he was 12, Mary said, no, you're coming with me. You're going home. That's where you're supposed to be. Because if you think about it, if it was Rebecca, right, with the way she handled the Jacob-Esau thing, at 12, Rebecca would have said, okay, Pharisees, you need to be listening to this boy. He's the King of the Jews. He's the one that's supposed to be, that's going to save all of you. Do you understand what I mean? But Mary never did that. She literally kept, when I say you keep something. So the first one, she kept building a layer upon layer of a strong image. And as a result of that, she never lacked instruction of what to do at every stage. Okay, every step Joseph and Mary took in relation to Jesus was a direct instruction from God. direct instruction from his conception, Jesus's conception, to when Joseph was about to put Mary away, right? These were people that were completely dependent. After he was born and Herod wanted to kill him, they were dependent on God. God said, move him to Egypt. Okay, stay in Egypt. Okay, now come back. So that the word, and I loved what the Bible said about that. Every time, if you read Matthew's account, he would always say, so that, as it was, let me read exactly what it says. So that it might be fulfilled that which was spoken. So go to Egypt so that it might be fulfilled that which was spoken. So God by himself was fulfilling his words through all these instructions. All right, do this, do that. That is how God expects the vision that he has shown us to be fulfilled. He doesn't expect us to toil. He doesn't expect us to rely on our own intelligence, connections. He will literally begin to show us exactly what to do. Now, this verse of the Bible, I believe, sums everything I've been saying so far up perfectly. Now, Paul was writing to the Galatian church. These were people that started in spirit, the same way Rebecca did. They received the baptism of the Holy Spirit baptism of the Holy Spirit by the Spirit. They were doing exploits, gifts of the Spirit. But then after a while, they left all of that and then they started trying to earn, trying to do works to justify themselves. And this is what Paul said. Paul said in Galatians 3:3, he said, how foolish can you be? After starting your new life in the Spirit, why are you now trying to become perfect by your own human effort? That sums everything up perfectly. Rebecca started in the Spirit. She went to God and said, what is going on? Show me the end. But then everything she did after that was literally her own human effort. She started, if you read that, there was a lot of lying. She even said, let your curse come upon me. If your father curses you, it's okay, I'll collect the curse. As in, talk about desperation. And it just showed that maybe she didn't trust that what God had said would come to pass. Maybe she observed the situation and thought, the way I'm looking, I think God is not going to, he's not going to do it. I think he's precise, because she was looking at the relationship. Maybe she expected that as a result of what God wanted to do, Isaac would love Jacob, right? Maybe she would have relaxed if she had seen some signs on the outside like, he's a favored one and so on. So I don't need to worry. Let me just relax. I can see that God is already moving. But it was the exact opposite. Isaac loved Esau, wanted to spend time with him, only wanted to eat his food. Meanwhile, Jacob just seemed like, okay, my second son. Hey, okay, how are you? That was it. There wasn't a special bond. So she felt, God is not moving. This thing that God has shown me, I have to make it happen. The same way God will show us something about anything. He shows you, and the first thing you want to go and do is manipulate situations to try and move things around. So Paul asked the Galatian church, he said, after starting in the Spirit, why are you now trying to become perfect by your own human effort? Now, what are the consequences? Now, remember, all of this is leading up to just one lesson. There's only one lesson today, and I will say the lesson at the end shortly. I told you it was going to be a short one today. So what are some of the consequences of trying to help God? So I'm going to go over that and then show you, as I promised, what is the right way? What's the right response, particularly when you have the word, but you look around you and it looks like God is not moving. So let me go and help him, okay? There's a way to respond. Now, Genesis 27, I'm going to show you one of the consequences here. So Genesis 27, 42 to 45. And the words of Esau, our older son, were told to Rebekah. So this was after, just to do a bit of a refresh, a refresher course in the Bible. Essentially, when it was time, when Isaac was nearing the end of his life, he called Esau and he said, I'm about to die, right? So here's what's going to happen. go and cook me that delicious meat that you always cook me. And once I've eaten it, I'll be so happy. I will just release blessings upon you. So Esau goes. But Rebecca, again, because the thing about it is, God is the one that created Isaac, right? Are we saying it was impossible for God while he was sleeping, waiting for Esau, for an angel to appear to him and say, Isaac, no, Jacob is the one you're supposed to bless? God has a million ways he could have done it. He had 1,000,001 ways, but Rebecca didn't wait. She didn't trust God. She thought, this is it. It's finished. I have to move now, and I have to move quickly, even if it meant lying and cheating and risking getting cursed. She didn't care. She was moving now. I'm going to do it now because it looks like this God. He doesn't know what he's doing. It just looks like everything is about to scatter. So it doesn't matter. I'm going to, compromise everything I know, my values, in order to get this thing. So she calls Jacob and she says, look, we're going to deceive your father. So go and deceive him and get the blessing. That just shows a simple lack of trust. A simple lack of trust, number one, in God's integrity and in God's power. Right? Integrity and power. Integrity means, but if God says it now, he knows what he's doing. He won't lie. He wasn't lying when he said that. And power. Even if she believed in God's integrity, maybe she thought, I don't think it can happen again. I think my husband is too stubborn for God to come and change. God can't do it. I need to do something. I need to, show him a lesson. I need to do this, I need to do this. I need to do that. I don't think God can touch this person. I don't think God can change the situation. So I know what to do. I'm going to go and compromise. So it was literally a lack of trust in God's integrity and in his power or his ability. So she sends Jacob off to go and deceive his father and to receive the blessing. So it says that when Esau, so as you can imagine, Esau came back and he was angry. In fact, he stood there on that spot and he promised himself that he was going to kill Jacob. The only reason he didn't kill him dead that instant was he thought, let my father die first. I don't want to do this. I don't want to cause my father grief. But as soon as that man is dead and I finish mourning him, Jacob, you are dead. I will kill you. So the words of Esau, her older son, were told to Rebekah. So she sent and called Jacob, her younger son, and said to him, surely your brother Esau comforts himself concerning you by intending to kill you. Now, therefore, my son, obey my voice, arise, flee to my brother Laban in Haran. Now, listen to this. She now said, and stay there with him a few days. And stay there with him a few days until your brother's fury turns away, until your brother's anger turns away from you, and he forgets what you have done to him. Then I will send and bring you there. Why should I be bereaved also of both of you in one day? So she was like, a few days, that's the consequence. It doesn't matter. Just go. I'll see you in a few days. We all know that Jacob ended up spending years, at least 14 years. It was much more than 14 years. Because even after he married Rachel, 14 years, he stayed there a long time and had children and so on. So I don't know exactly how many years, but we're looking 20, possibly 30 or more. Something that was supposed to be a few days. But it was delayed. It was supposed to be a few, and he never saw his mother again. And the thing is, you don't know how God does these things. Like I said, the one that pops into my own head is, God could literally, as he's about to put his hand on Esau, God could have said, stop it, no, it's not him. And an angel will show up and say, no, it's Jacob. Anyhow, in a dramatic way, in a still small voice, God knows how to do these things. Or he could have literally at the last minute thought, hang on, Rebecca, I remember you went to see that prophet when you were pregnant. What did the prophet say? And he could have changed his mind at that point in time. God has 1,000,001 ways. Just because something looks hopeless does not mean God will not do it. So that temptation to want to, out of anxiety, out of fear, out of worry, to want to jump in, honestly, it messes things up. It may delay it. It may, and there's some things I've said here. It could end up destroying. I'm going to show where it destroys. So in this case, it was significantly delayed. It was significantly delayed. Okay. What was supposed to be him leaving his homeland, the land of promise, for a few days, ended up being, I don't know how many years, 20, 30. I need to look into the Bible to find out how many years. But surely probably about 30 years before he could come back to the land of promise. Okay. Now, I want you, so I was going to look at other cases in the Bible before I now go on to talk about today's lesson. So Joseph was another one. So people say, Joseph, when you have your dream, you just be sharing it because people need to hear. I don't know if Joseph had to suffer everything he suffered, to be honest. Because remember, Jesus is our ultimate example. God came and he demonstrated how it should be, all right? How to enter into destiny. He demonstrated it. If we go and read the life of Jesus, we see very plainly. So I'm not sure Joseph was supposed to suffer. Are we saying that the only way God could have gotten Joseph to Egypt was as a slave? I don't think so. I'm sure God had other ways that he could have done it. But again, this is another person where God reveals the end to him. And think about it this way. Do you think Joseph was telling all those dreams to his father and his brothers because he was just like, oh, I'm so excited? He was telling them, I think, to lord it over them, to tell them, listen, you guys should be listening to me. You guys should be subject to me. All right? And as a result of that, the only thing he stirred up was not the submission he was looking for, but hatred. And his brothers hated him to the point that they almost killed him, but for the mercy of God. So it was the mercy of God that intervened, that one of the brothers, was it Judah, that said, please don't kill him, and sold him into slavery. They were about to kill him. They were about to snuff that vision, destroy that vision forever. Why? Because he received the word and then he decided, this is how I'm going to make it happen. I'm going to talk about these things until they hear me, until they begin to say everything that I'm. Did God send him? No. Was he a prophet? No. There are prophets where God will show things and God will immediately say, go and broadcast it, shout it from the rooftops. We don't see anywhere where that instruction was given. So it was something that he chose to do of himself. The second example is the Israelites. Now, after God told them that, I have given you the land, and they were like, oh, there's giants in the land, and all that. So God said, okay, fine. There are giants in the land. As you have spoken, so will it be. And God said, you're not going in again. Now, after that, I'm going to read Numbers 14 to you. It says, when Moses reported the Lord's words to all the Israelites, when God told them, okay, because you have denied me, you're going to die in the wilderness. Now, listen to how these people responded. It said the people were filled with grief. So they were sorry. They got up early the next morning and went to the top of the hills. Let's go, they said. We realize that we have sinned, but now we are ready to enter into the land that the Lord has promised us. But Moses said, why are you now disobeying the Lord's orders to return to the wilderness? It won't work. Do not go up into the land. You will only be crushed by enemies because the Lord is not with you. So he told them and he warned them, but they said, no, we're going. So they went anyway. But God was not with, it was not an instruction given by God. And some of them were destroyed because they thought, okay, this is the vision God gave. This is how God said, go back to the wilderness. It is your children that will enter into it. God was clear about that. But they decided, no, I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear that. God says, it gives you a specific way he wants you to do it, a specific instruction, but you don't like that instruction. So you say, no, you just push it and suppress it and say, I'm going to do it my own way. These guys, that's what they did. God said, it's no longer you guys, it's your children. Go back. They said, no, We don't want it to be our children. We want it to be us. And they went anyway, and some of them were destroyed. They were killed. So all of that basically is going to bring me to my one and only lesson today. Okay. And my lesson is this. What you started with God, so the thing, the vision, the project, whatever it is that you started with God, God began the process. He showed you the vision, the end. Don't allow selfish ambition to derail, delay, or destroy it. So what you started with God, don't allow selfish ambition to derail, delay, or destroy it. Just as Paul said to the Galatians, what you started in the spirit, don't try and perfect it with human effort, because it only leads to death. That's what the Bible says. It says the carnal mind is enmity. So when we try to create things out of our own intelligence, out of our own minds, all right, you have not received an instruction. Now, someone might say, how does this work practically? So does that mean that God gives me a word and then I just sit down and I don't do anything and I'm just waiting for the word to come to pass? Yes and no. Okay? Yes, in the sense that you wait on God until you receive an instruction. No, in the sense that your waiting is not a passive kind of waiting. So you're not sitting down just, watching TV all day. God tells you you're going to build the largest, telecoms business or something. And okay, I'm just waiting for God to come and tell me what to do. And you're spending all your days just hanging around, wasting time. You're waiting, but you're not waiting passively. You're waiting actively to hear what he will say. And this is how we do it, okay? So I'm going to use this. So this is the right response when God shows you something. When God tells you a word and he shows you a vision. All right, Luke 14, 28 to 30 says, for which of you intending to build a tower does not sit down first and count the cost, whether he has enough to finish it, lest after he has laid the foundation is not able to finish, and all who see it begin to mock him, saying, this man began to build and was not able to finish. So it says here, the same way you want to build a house. God has shown you you're going to build this house, this marriage, this, your child's life, this business, this career, this health, whatever it is that he has shown you, right? At the beginning, there's nothing. In fact, sometimes there's less than nothing. It looks completely impossible at the beginning. But remember, the word came not for you to begin to try to do it. The word came for you to begin to trust in God for him to take you there. There's a difference. There's a difference. So what does the Bible say that we should do? It says, first of all, sit down and count the cost. Now, Jesus used that term deliberately. He says, count the cost. What is it going to cost me so that I can make sure I have enough? Now, if you think about, he used building as an example. So an architect, someone wants to build a house, okay? How do you count the cost? Is it by sitting and thinking, okay, maybe I'll need, by estimates and saying, okay, I'll need 5 bags of cement. Think about it. Anyone wants to build a house. Well, who is the first person they bring in? The architect to draw the blueprint. So the architect is the first person so that you can actually get the ideas in your head down on paper so that you can see. And then based on the architect's drawing, the engineers will come in and they'll say, right, this is what it's going to cost. Da, 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 da. So literally when it's saying to count the cost, it means you need the blueprint. It means you need the blueprints, because someone might think, okay, to build a 5-story building, it's going to cost me times 5 of what I need for a bungalow. And they estimate it like that without a blueprint. Now, that is an error because you don't know. But if you have an exact blueprint, you know exactly what it's going to cost you, give or take some expenses, some minor expenses. So that's literally what Jesus was saying there. He's saying that you need to have a blueprint of heaven regarding that particular venture. And what's a blueprint? A blueprint is what shows you, okay, this is what you do, this is what you do. You have a clear vision of the next step to take. So if an engineer, a builder has a blueprint, he can build the whole building. Why? Because he knows, okay, we'll start here and this is what we'll do next. So you know per season what to do next. You know per season what to do. You always know what step to take next. You always know what step to take next. And how does that come? How do you get the blueprint? You know, Jesus said, he said, I do nothing except that which I see the Father doing. Jesus lived like that. And he's calling us really to come to that place where for the things that he has shown us to stop wearing ourselves out and stop, diminishing the quality of our lives in trying to get it happen and living with worry and anxiety and serial disappointments and failures that could very well have been avoided if we had literally just waited on God and received his instruction on exactly what to do. That shortens the process and it cuts out a lot of things, heartache that we don't always have to go through. So how do we do that? How do you sit down? What does it mean to sit down? You literally take the word God has given you and you begin to meditate on it. You begin to meditate on it. You begin to confess it to yourself. You begin to pray in the spirit about that word. And you wait. So you can, for example, let me use the example of someone that wants to move forward in their career. So you're going to work every day. You don't stop and stay at home and say, God is going to show me a blueprint. And you stop going to work unless instruction will stop working. So you carry on with your normal day. The Bible talks about the man that plants the seed in the ground. He goes about his business. He doesn't know how it grows. It's exactly the same thing. You take the word, you take that desire, take that vision God has given you, and you begin to pray and meditate over it. You go on with your normal business. You can even start to research, okay? You can start to read books. You can start to do you understand that? But you don't take a step. You don't move forward until at least there's some kind of conviction in your heart as to what it is you're supposed to do. And if you do it that way, the desires will begin to come. The ideas will begin to come. An idea will just pop into your head as in, oh, I think I should do this. And then you do it and like, boom, the door just opens like that. You don't have to force it down. You don't have to try and kick it down. You don't have to do any of those things that we do in compromising ourselves in order to try and help God. It honestly becomes effortless when we live this way. But it is the fact that a lot of us can be impatient. We want it now. We want it now. Or it looks impossible. I don't think God can do it. We don't say it, but we think it. We might not say it out loud, but we're thinking, I think I should just do this thing. I don't think God can save this marriage, so I'm just going to do it my way. These are the kind of things when we don't wait on God and we try to help him. So that's what we need to do. It says you sit down in order to get the blueprint. What is God saying? How does he want you to approach this? And honestly, it's a way that is hassle-free because you literally just put pressure on the word, not on people, not on circumstances. You don't try and manipulate people to get what you want. You literally put pressure on that word. And before your very eyes, the doors will begin to open. And you'll be like, wow, this is also easy. Why is it so easy? That is kind of like God has called us to. The hard part is the sitting still and putting pressure on the word. Praying, meditating. It is hard because we want to do. What can I do? What can I do? Let me go and do this. We want to do. The sitting still is the hardest part, but it is the requirement. It's a prerequisite if you're going to effortlessly enter into what God has for you. As we go into a new year, let this be a word for you. If you have, if you are someone that has been running around, so God has given you this word, but you have been running around, let 2019 be different. Sit still. There's a process to it. And, honestly, everything, I said this and I said everything I've ever learned, every method, every process, in my walk with God that I've ever used or learned in terms of moving forward and going to another level is documented in gems. There is a process to this thing. Honestly, effortless living, supernatural living is possible. We don't need to hustle. We don't need to toil. We don't need to be, eat by this. That thing is actually a curse where it says by the sweat of your face. So the hustle, the toil, living like the world, it was a curse on Adam. But we have been redeemed from the curse. It doesn't mean to sit down and be lazy and do nothing. It's a different kind of work. It is sitting still and allowing God to show you what to do while you carry on with your normal daily business. So you don't stop what you're doing. You don't, unless God says, okay, take time off work and do this. But you carry on, but you schedule time. You give that stillness in God's presence and in front of his word, attention and priority. You schedule it in. You don't just leave it, because that is where the instructions will come from. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful Christmas. Have a Merry Christmas. And well, hopefully I'll see you in the group, or I'll see you back at the next Bible study in 2019. It's a wonderful privilege to be able to do these Bible studies, and I don't take it for granted. Bye, everyone.